Okay, we're going to take a couple of questions here. Okay, I'm going to repeat the question. The question is, what is the Jones Act? Well, if we had about 3 hours, I could tell you what it is, because it's a very nuanced law. But let me give you the broad parameters of it, and it'll pretty much put you on the right track. It was passed in 1920 during a period of intense protectionism, and it was designed to protect U.S. shipbuilding, U.S. mariners, and U.S. merchants. The broad parameters are this: to carry cargo between U.S. ports, you must be in a ship that was built in the United States, the hull built here, all major components U.S. built. It must be owned by a U.S. company. If it's a corporation, it must be 75% owned by U.S. citizens. The chief executive and the chairman of the board of directors must be U.S. citizens. No foreign entity can have a veto or control over the company. If it's individually owned, it must be 100% owned. If it's owned by an LLC, it must be 100% owned. If you meet those requirements, Coast Guard will issue what's known as a coastwise endorsement. That coastwise endorsement permits you to carry cargo between U.S. ports. Very simple law, very stringently enforced. The purpose of it is to give a monopoly to U.S. shipping, and it does. A couple of places are excluded. First of all, Puerto Rico is included, even though there's discussion now about changing that. Samoa, the Virgin Islands, I think Guam are excluded from the Jones Act. Now, companion with the Jones Act is the Passenger Vessel Act, which is essentially the same thing for passengers. But remember, in the Jones Act, when it comes to being U.S. built, it must be built in a U.S. yard. Recently, a company had a foreign company build the hull on a $50-60 million vessel, brought it to the U.S. to finish it out. All of a sudden found out they could not get enough coastwise endorsement. So any issues, talk to the Coast Guard office in Washington before you spend $1 million. There are waivers of the Jones Act, basically for national defense or an emergency in which there is no U.S. vessel capable of doing the job. So those are the broad parameters. There are books written on the nuances of it, but if you adhere to those issues, U.S. built, U.S. owned, U.S. crewed, probably you're not going to have a problem. Okay, do we have another question?